Hey, this is Gavin, and um, I my religion is based in shamanism, and I recently discovered the Amanita muscaria mushroom. That's the mushroom that Mario takes, and the reason I discovered it is that in Florida, uh, they are prosecuting some stores that sell amanitas. Some of the amanitas are poisonous. You should know that. And you should know that these things can be dangerous. I have to say that up front. I've done research, but they're powerful, and as with powerful things, they can be helpful and they can be harmful. So there you go. There's your spoiler alert. If you do anything in excess, it can be dangerous. It can be very dangerous, including drinking water. And so, because Florida is fighting um, stores trying to sell, for example, Amanita muscaria, um, the news ended up in my feed, and then I got curious. I was like, oh, stores are selling this now. I remember when stores were selling Salvia divinorum. And I remember when Alabama made Salvia divinorum illegal after I had already used it. And so this uh, is interesting for me because Salvia divinorum was interesting and it was made illegal. So it sparked my interest. And so I went and did research. I found the supplier of the Amanitas to the stores in Florida. And I did my research. There's different species. And I'll show you the store. So here we go. Okay, so this was amanitamushrooms.com, and maybe I can move this a little bit more so you can see the domain name. And here you go, amanitamushrooms.com. Now, I ended up buying the Muscaria. I did not buy the Panthers. And so in my research, I listened to people on the internet. Um, there's a Baba Masha out of Russia, or she's from Russia. I think she lives in Oregon now. And she conducted um, conducted research with volunteers. So it was like peer-to-peer research on the internet with thousands of studies. They basically say, we're going to do this and we'll do it this way so that if anyone dies, we'll know about it. Something like that. And so they did experiments with microdosing, which is what I've tried. And they experimented with macrodoses, which, you know, some people reported, uh, difficult experiences. And I also heard that for some people, and actually, Baba Masha does not recommend going on the internet and doing this. So I will say that as well, because sometimes you could get your mushrooms from someone who went to Chernobyl and, uh, you know, and the mushroom is feeding on toxic material, for example. So Baba Masha recommends that you pick them yourselves and teaches you how to process it and how to be careful with it, because the dosage is really hard. But when you buy from this store, they tell you, they send it to a lab, or at least they pretend to send it to a lab, and they measure the muscimol and the ibotenic acid, and they measure these in a lab. So, you know, this is risky business. Um, it would be nice to know exactly where the mushrooms come from, and this is true for, everything in the economy, right? It would be nice to know where everything is sourced from. It'd be nice to have cameras on the chickens that you end up getting your eggs from, for example. But I digress. For some people, when you pick your own Amanitas, and what's funny is I actually found one. I bought these and then I found one. So I think, and my son has seen them before as well. So I can find them in Alabama, but they're rare. But if you, for some people, if you use them fresh, they don't sit well with you. And for other people, if you use them, there's certain people where if you use them when they're fresh, they're good. And for others, they're bad. And then there's a different group of people where if you wait 3 months, you'll have a good or bad experience. And then there's some people who it doesn't matter. So that was interesting, that we all have different reactions, different allergies, things like that. Baba Masha talked about how she made tinctures out of this, that where she could put it on her skin to help with, she said it helps with the symptoms, right? It doesn't help with the root cause problem, but it can help with the symptoms. And she's had a lot of success using tinctures on the skin. Now, in the research, many people have had success with addiction. And what's interesting to me is that I have been addicted to many things, like going on the internet and watching YouTube videos. And I just haven't had a pull towards watching YouTube videos on the internet like I did, for example. But it's the same thing for books. Like I can get addicted to reading science fiction, and I haven't felt that pull. And so when you aren't being pulled by these forces, you experience some kind of freedom. I also was being pulled by a force to try and put on a mask and be, the righteous king or something like that. And, with the Amanita Muscaria, I've been able to be freed from that pull, from that grip. And so there's all these things that can grip us. And the Amanita Muscaria has helped me gain freedom from these things that have gripped me. Being gripped by, YouTube, being gripped by my own delusions, being gripped by my own obsessions. And you can become obsessed by anything. So the microdosing has helped. What's interesting is with the microdose, in my experience, it hasn't impacted my ability to think clearly. In fact, it has helped me, it's scary, right? I had a problem at work, and normally I then get this adrenaline, I get this anxiety, and that anxiety can be helpful. But it wasn't there, and then the anxiety not being there caused a little bit of anxiety. I got a little bit nervous, but I aimed at, being helpful for our customers and our company and for our team. So that was my alignment and my orienting. And then I was able to just do all my steps calmly. And what's funny is I hop in a call with people during this event, and it's like on Monday, and I'm like solving problems, and then off to the side, I'm like, so how was your weekend? Whereas the past version of myself would be so obsessed with solving a problem that I would forget the humans in the meeting, right? I wouldn't even care about the humans and care about their feelings and be interested in them. And so the Amanita Muscaria microdosing I feel like has made me a better human, where I don't become so obsessed with, I can become like, the phrase I heard Jordan Peterson say was monomaniacal. This brain can just become totally focused. It's like a superpower, but when you totally focus on something, you ignore everything else. And so I was able to have really good success this week at work, attempting to be helpful for our customers and, as a father and a husband and an employee for the benefit of people. I don't know how helpful I've been on the internet this week. You can go look at some of the videos I've created this past week and decide for yourself. But I wanted to point this out. I wanted to issue a warning. This is legal, but Amanita muscaria, if you overdose on this, it can lead to delusion and repetitive behavior. And it especially can happen with like the panthers. So, there's stories of people like climbing up on a bridge, jumping off the bridge, landing on rocks, and just being bruised and bloodied and walking up onto the bridge and jumping off the bridge and landing on the rocks and doing it over and over and over. And so you could potentially do too much of this and end up making decisions that cause harm to you and others. So you're playing with fire. Fire is useful. It allows us to stay warm when it's cold and can keep us alive and can cook, but it can also burn down houses and forests. It can kill people. So, you're playing with fire. Doesn't mean we should make it illegal. And the reason people would make it illegal is if you go out and do stupid shit. So part of this message is to encourage you to don't be an idiot. Try not to, we're all idiots, but try not to be an idiot. Do your research. Don't just stuff a bunch of these things in your mouth and eat them and just do whatever and then and treat it with disregard. Like, don't treat anything with disregard. So what I did is I went to the shop and I went to the capsules. And these right here are the Amanita muscarias. These other ones, they have a blend, and they have different blends based on, they have different blends of the Amanita species. But I wanted to go with the most mild species, and that's the Mario mushroom, the Amanita muscaria. And let's see. Yeah, so they send them off to a lab, and they report on the muscimol and the ibotenic. Let's see. No, yeah, there's the ibotenic acid and the muscimol. So they were. This batch has no ibotenic acid, which is what can cause discomfort. There's a way to process. If you were harvesting these mushrooms in the wild, there's a way to actually process these to convert ibotenic acid into muscimol. And then there's something else. I wanted to show the picture of the mushroom. Here we go. Oh, I need to go to the learn more, I think. Learn. So there's a learn section, and you can click on Amanita muscaria. And it's a pretty mushroom, right? And, that they're dangerous. So you have to be careful. And here's the gauge. I can maybe shrink this thing down. So they have a gauge here, and they're saying muscaria is like at the bottom, and then they have the different species, and they put the panthers up at the top. And so effects are general and more subtle, like a mild body buzz or mental clarity. Now, I'm going to switch back to full screen now. So the difference between that first day and the day before was there was a big contrast. My wife noticed it. There was everything was more beautiful. Like the world didn't change, but I changed. The observer changed, and the observer noticed that more beauty. The observer was more grateful, and the observer was more interested in humans. Like wanting to, caring, not even wanting, but actually caring about humans. Less anxiety and stress. Less anxiety and stress about things like, and then I even had a had a moment days later. So I had a moment where I was reflecting on past Gavin, 2-year-old Gavin, asking my aunt, so where is Mama? My mom died when I was 2, and I really felt like I really cared for past Gavin the same way I was caring more for other people. I cared more for myself, cared more for my past self, and yeah, I really acknowledged how that experience of my mom dying shaped me tremendously. Um, it's and I've in these past videos this week I've been pointing out that things are good and bad. So having my mom die when I was 2 years old was both good and bad. Like, people's first response would be like, "Oh, it's a terrible thing," and yes, it is a tragedy. For my mother, the it appears the story of my mother looks like a tragedy. I don't want that story for myself nor for my wife. Um, Now the story for Gavin, for myself, isn't a tragedy. It caused me to mature and grow, and become like more mature than most people at my age, and that's the way it's been my entire life. And there's plenty of people who have had trauma and experienced these difficulties, which, for example, might cause you to not be able to be a child, or not to be a child for as long as other people. And then there's 60-year-old childs and the 60-year-old children in the world. I noticed this when I was younger than a teenager. I noticed that there are these fully grown humans that are children. So, good and bad. You do lose something when there is value in being a child. It is fun to be a child. And you miss out on that fun whenever you're forced into a situation where you have to take on responsibility, and you don't have others taking care of you, and you learn to take care of yourself. Now, I say that, and I did have others taking care of me, but the amount of care that others gave me and could give me was less than many other homes. But then there are people who received less care than I did. So, all the care I received was enormous. It shaped me for the good, and it's for the good and the bad. It's not all good. So that's what I'm going to leave you with. I just wanted to explain the changes that you might see on my channel. I know that I'm saying things that are hard to understand for people. I have changed, and I have a different worldview now. And I am saying things that many people won't understand. I'm seeing truths that many people can't see. Past versions of myself wouldn't be able to see the truths that I see now. So, it's there's always a question of what truths should be shared on the internet, because there's truths in this mind, and then I have private relationships, with different people. Like, I have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old, and they can handle different truths. And then I have my wife, and I have my neighbors, and there's so much of there's secrets. There are secret truths which people aren't ready for. There is an order in which truths can be revealed, and I still know I'm an idiot, right? This is one of the truths. It's like when I say I'm an idiot, I say it in the sense that, like, I don't believe in the government in the Greek sense. Like, I think that people who don't participate in these governments are important, are very important. And those who don't want to participate in the governments, need to find each other and learn how to do it better, which means we would actually create our own government. So being an idiot, like in the Greek sense of the word, just means that the existing governments don't have anything to offer us. Now, part of that can be delusion, right? We just have to have the courage to go and offer our services to help. But part of it is that there is a inertia within the government based on its history, and it can transform into something that excludes and exiles people, and those people who are excluded and exiled from the government, in the Greek sense of the word, are idiots. Now, that's not the only way I'm using the word idiot. I'm also using the word idiot in the sense that we are fools. We're being fooled because we have brains that fool. Our brains are filling in the gaps all the time, and we always have biases, and we're always interpreting and receiving a hallucination. So it's interesting that we have these large language models that hallucinate now and that have biases, because it turns out all brains have hallucinations and biases. That's all they do, all the time, right? And they can be useful. So that's what I also mean when I use the word idiot. And then I also mean, out of all of the knowledge that is known, this brain has a drop in the ocean, and then out of all the knowledge that all humans know, that is a drop in the ocean. So that's what I also mean by the word idiot. And then I hope to be holy, the holy fool. I hope to be a holy fool, and I think it would be good if we all get to a point where we identify as holy fools. Being a holy fool, we will make mistakes at trying to be holy, but in taking this stance, and here's probably the most important point about being a fool, is that if you take the opposite view and say, I am the wisest person on earth, I am the smartest person on earth, and if you take that condescending view, what it means is you will be less able to learn, because your stance is not one in which you are being humble and treating the other, whether it's the sacred book, the content you're listening to now, the trees and nature. If you are condescending, you are treating all of this, you're in a relationship with all of this in which you are unable to receive the lesson that's available at each moment, from everywhere and anywhere. But if you take the stance of the fool, it means being humble. The meek shall inherit the earth. The humble are able to learn the truth at a faster rate than the smartest people on earth. And I'm talking about the worldview. I'm not talking about your brain's capacity. Like, all brains are are filling in the gaps and being delusional and have biases. So if you take on the model of the fool, then you are in the right relationship with the world, to learn and to learn the truth. So it's a practical worldview. It's pragmatic. It's a pragmatic worldview. Now, I can't just go around calling everyone an idiot, right? I'm not going to go call my children an idiot. I'm not going to go call my wife an idiot. I'm not going to go call my neighbors an idiot. And on the internet, I feel more comfortable calling everyone idiots. because you're uh, an amorphous blob of humanity. And the key there is that I'm part of it. I am like you. So don't take it personally when I say these things. Actually, I would prefer that you do take it personally and then begin to identify as an idiot trying to be holy, trying, the holy fool. Um, that's that. My suggestion is that as you transform towards the good, you become a holy fool. You become the self-identified fool at trying to be holy, trying to be useful. So, that's what I mean. And yeah, I hope that nobody uses these amanitas in ways which cause harm, because when that happens, um, those systems that are in place will use the tools in their toolbox and will outlaw things, make things illegal. That's the pattern. It's and I have sympathy with the people who do that, because it's scary. We want to protect our children. We don't want, you know, crazy people going around operating heavy machinery and killing children. Like, we don't want that. And so, um, yeah, try to try to be holy. Try not to hurt people. So yeah, be very careful. Do your research. Um, I would say try to think for yourself. I know Jacob Petrovich does not like that idea, and I'll just explain how I do it. Is that uh, I'm doing cognitive outsourcing. I'm listening to other people's accounts and other people's stories, and so I did not do Amanita Muscaria when I came across it these previous times, because I wasn't getting the kind of feedback that allowed me to feel comfortable doing that experiment. Um, the, the knowledge and the tools weren't available even last year in my mind. Uh, and so there's been brave people go and maybe not even brave, people who just are exasperated with their situation, on the verge of dying or killing themselves, just miserable humans who can't find any relief in our current systems, who then resort, I like that word, a resort, they then resort to this thing um, that is a mystery. The Amanita Muscaria is a mystery, and they give it a try, which is better than killing yourself, right? It's like, well, and there's other things to try. There's many other things to try that are out there that are medicinal and offer medicinal value. So try not to be a hypocrite if you're a lawmaker. Like, there are plenty of substances that people can take, which will cause them to do terrible things, like the kinds of things you can get and as a prescription from a pharmacy. And there's nothing stopping people from, overdosing, doing too much. You can do too much of anything. There's nothing stopping people from doing too much of that and then causing harm to themselves and others. So, like, even with a prescription, right? So, don't be a fool, right? Be a fool. Realize you're an idiot, and realize that, these brains end up arriving at conclusions that are hypocritical, which make no sense, because we are these emotional creatures who are motivated by, these things like, I would call them comforts, and then I would branch those out into rewards, ideology, and ego. If we begin to question, our ability to gain and maintain rewards, ideology, and ego, that's uncomfortable, and we don't like being uncomfortable. And that's the way this idiot brain works. And we need to be skeptical of this idiot brain. And we need to be able to reconsider. So, yeah, to the lawmakers and the people who have power within the system, I would encourage you to I would encourage you to get rid of the Controlled Substances Act and these laws that are at the highest levels, which outlaw substances. Right? It's totally idiotic that we even decided to do that, and it was evil, mostly evil. I mean, nobody's all evil, but it was just very little good, and the idea that we should prohibit substances from existing and prohibit substances from being researched and prohibit substances from being used by holy people trying to be holy. So, y'all have a good one. Bye bye.